Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tumbleweeds and Tombstones, the game where each week my players can try to tell mouth words hard. Let's try
Welcome
that
to Tumbleweeds
again.
and Tombstones, where Sean tries to talk.
The game where each week my players accuse me of trying to kill them, and I have to remind them that they're already dead. There, got it in one.
Wow.
In that one take, that was
right. That was perfectly done, and I did not trip over my words at all.
The first time, every time.
See, that's what I get for taking a week off.
Lesson learned: never take time off.
Right. There is only game and nothing but game. So, shall we jump into last week's, or the last week we played's review?
Yes.
Good. So,
the rhetorical questions need answering.
Yes. When last we were with the Obsidian Spurs, they were in a underground cavern, which they decided to forego the Song of the Sister, one of the last trials to get to the Lupine village, in lieu of a side door entrance that was possibly more dangerous in the sense of not knowing what was coming and what was guarding it. The Watcher in the Darkness is the only thing that PETA, your Lupine guide, mentioned. However, it's not the main entrance, so the chance of other Lupines patrolling that particular entrance was less likely. You, after a little bit of traversing, went into a large underground cavern with a lake in the middle of it. Liam, never missing an opportunity to get naked, jumped into the lake, only to find that the further he got out, the more there seemed to be smoke or mist or some kind of thing obscuring his vision from the other side, and that there were these blue-green lake weeds that, if touched, sapped your energy and your stamina. He swam back to the group, decided that they would try to leave the carriage and the NPCs behind and try to traverse this on the raft that was waiting for them on their side of the lake. In trying to traverse this, they saw an island with a hut that seemed to be the source of this mist or smoke coming out of it, that seemed to have someone inhabiting it. Every attempt to circumvent this island, though, just led to them getting lost in the mist, turned around, and being led straight back to it. After the wanton destruction of some pottery, they realized that the island was indeed inhabited by seemingly a woman heavily laden with being pregnant, in the traditional garb of the Comanche women, who introduced herself as Sanapia, and basically let them know that she was the guardian, that they would have to pass her test in order to proceed forward, in which each of the Obsidian Spurs were questioning in kind of being very mindful of the present, of what their current goals were, why they were doing what they were doing, what was driving them forward, and being very much in the now. Each of them, through strength of willpower, passed the test and were given the reward of being able to ask a favor if it coincided with something to do with the present, whether that be knowledge, whether that be a gift or ability. Something, if it was in her power to grant, she would. Some of you also realize that there seemed to be a connection between her and another witchly woman that many of you had come across before, in the form of Geneva, who was a captive underneath the San Miguel mission. You each were giving your gifts in turn. blinked and found yourselves on the opposite end of the shore with carriage and companions in tow, and you were free to traverse forward to the Lupine village. And that is where we left off, and that is where we pick up on tonight's episode of Tumbleweeds and Tombstones.
I still firmly believe we've also met the third sister. In my assumptions.
Yes. Well, you guys find yourself on the other side of the lake. Much like the initial side that you came in, there is a docking station for the raft on this side, and the raft is now on this side as well. Yes. There does seem to be right ahead of you a tunnel that leads up and to the left. And it does seem like the other side, wide enough just barely for the carriage to be able to get through, and tall enough that if Asmodeus slouches, it shouldn't be much of an issue. Speaking of which, Asmodeus, Henry, Peta are all kind of looking around, and Asmodeus is sitting there. What the hell just, where are we?
How do you not remember? You were driving like a maniac.
Driving what?
The raft. Oh, did you black out from fun again?
Go ahead and roll a charisma plus. No, this is going to be, no, sorry. This is manipulation plus subterfuge. Against his wits plus subterfuge.
I just see where I end up here.
Okay.
3.
Well, he got 2 successes and 2 1s. So he starts kind of scratching his chin. Oh, fuck. I guess it wouldn't be the first time. In the meantime, Peta and Henry are kind of eyeing each other and then looking at Liam.
To be fair, Peta was there on the island with us because he also got a gift.
That's true. That is true. But definitely Bartleby and Henry are looking somewhat confused, but also kind of looking at Liam.
I'm just looking at them like.
H's is just suppressing after. Let's just get our horses back on the carriage and we'll talk later.
Little bit goes by as you're able to reconnect everything. Sonoy seems to be sniffing the air very much the herb infused mist that is trickling through, and Sonoy kind of pats up to Wea and kind of gives him a not so much concerned but more of a we good kind of look.
Yes, we're good for now. You don't know what lies ahead, but we're good now.
He just kind of nods and stays by your side. A little bit while later, you all are hooked back up. You're free to progress onwards.
Well, we get the why do I want to say chariot? Carriage. She's
slightly different mode of transportation.
And what does the scenery around us look like again? Is it much like what it was on the other side?
It's almost a carbon copy of the other side. The only difference being while the other side, the way in was kind of straightforward, a straight shot in, the tunnel out of this seems to be curving up and to the left.
Well, at least there's one path.
I will say, I mean, if you at a quick glance with a little bit, I forget, Liam, do you still have your moonlight glowing?
Is it because I gave it to Wea? We went to the island,
I
and I
gave it
didn't turn it
back
back
to
on
you.
yet. I know my camera's frozen. I gotta kind of exit and come back in to get it fixed. Can we take a quick pause?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back.
No one move.
I'm back, baby.
With a rusty spork. Anyway, so I will say at a quick
Yeah,
yes or no,
I'll turn the ring back on. That's not a problem.
yeah. And I'll say I think you still had at least one oil lantern affixed on attached to the front of the carriage. You will at a glance notice that this side seems to have a lot more tracks on it than the other side does. And anyone who wants to can give me a just straight wits roll.
Yeah, Walter's weirded the hell out. He's just
Nope.
taking stuff in.
0.
0? Okay.
Rolling a 1.
1.
A 3, a 4, and a 5. That did not help.
2.
2. 2.
2.
Do I hear 3? 3 going once, going twice?
2. Okay, the 2s. So that would be Liam, Noah, and Wea. You remember on the island all the goods and everything. Now, some of them, like the fish and stuff like that, you get the idea since you saw fishing poles going into the water that she was probably catching herself. But you're getting the idea that a lot of the other dried goods and everything else had to have come from somewhere. And you're getting the idea that if this is the side that is connected to where the Lupine village is, that maybe offerings or gifts are brought every so often for her basic needs.
Well, they definitely traverse this side much more often. We should be extra careful. PETA, if you want to take point, maybe you'd be easier detecting others than us.
Yes, I can definitely do that.
We need to be ready to get spotted. We probably do. I'm gonna jump back up on the carriage top and be with my demon friend.
PETA looks at Atris and says, in case we are spotted, your ability to keep things quiet might be very crucial at this time, so that way a full out alert to the entire tribe is not given.
I could cast my silence now or whenever you signal me.
Maybe have it ready. Just be ready to do it at a moment's notice, so that way a warning signal isn't given.
Oh, my dear boy, you have no idea who you're talking to. She's always ready to do it at a moment's notice.
It's sort of my thing.
You can't tell, but you think you see in the darkness the young man's cheeks get a little bit darker as he clears his throat and keeps going. Asmodeus leans down to Walter and goes, "You mean sex, right? Right? As it echoes in the cavern.
Yeah, it's a double and intended. Tended.
Double in tango. Got it. All
I
right.
hate it so much.
We just like it after all.
You all progress onwards, I assume in the similar arrangement to how you all came in this. One thing you instantly notice is this side has a lot more of those. Every so often, it's not covering every inch of wall, but every so often seeing those scratch marks that seem to be intended as a type of language of sorts, and you'll see little scratched in messages every so often. You'll see the hand or paw prints that vary in size from full-on war form lupine to human size to regular wolf paw, and even then some variations. Some of them you would, at a glance from the size, maybe suggest children or different things like that. Again, it's not like with the Star Cave where it was covering every single inch of it, just every so often little bits left here and there as some form of written tradition left behind for others to observe or read. You also notice that the tunnel seems to open up a little bit, not enough where you could get a horse on either side of the carriage, but if someone wanted to walk alongside the carriage on either side, you probably could get it. And it's a little bit where Asmodeus isn't having to like shrink down quite as much, but you do notice that it is while not drastic, a steady and gradual incline from the beginning of this cavern, and it continues onward. At this point of night, I assume at least Liam or a couple of you have a pocket watch on you. It's starting to push towards between the time it took you to get to the because you guys decided to rest right before entering the main
We did, yes.
lake cavern. So at this point, it's still relatively early in the night. I'd say it's only about 10 o'clock-ish.
Oh, Peter,
Yes.
just because I know that my good friend here, Henry, would like to know, and it just might be useful. And to be fair, if it's sacred, tell me and I'll drop it now. But might we have insight into the scratchy claw language?
He kind of looks around a little bit in the light, and you kind of notice. You all notice the same thing with Wea, that his eyes always seem to be somewhat glowing in the dark. You notice with Peter, like when the light hits his eyes, it kind of reflects the way it does like a dog's eyes that get caught in the lamplight at night. I mean, they all say different things. They're mostly either memories of those who have passed, words of wisdom or suggestions. Some of them refer to the Watcher in the dark and bringing them offerings to thank them or encourage the continued protection of our people.
Okay, so like 1 scratch is A, 2 is A plus, maybe a.
If you want a lesson, I can teach you maybe at a time where we're not expecting an attack at any moment, but
Oh, well, that at least bodes well for future relations with us.
he points to one phrase, and you see the scratch, and he's like, this refers to the Watcher in the darkness, as he points to one thing. But he's like, please understand, it's not English, it's our language in written form.
Oh. No, I understand. I just think it's interesting, and likely we're probably never going to get a good opportunity in the future again.
As you're talking, Henry is for sure, one of his notebooks are open, and he is scratching for as fast as he possibly can without holding up the party, of like trying to write down as much as he can. And he definitely identically copies the phrase that Peter points out, and then in parentheses puts Watcher in darkness, just as some kind of loose Rosetta Stone of any kind of bit of information or understanding he can glean, he does.
But thank you.
He nods and continues to push forward, seeming to listen. You all, unless you all have else more you want to talk about amongst yourselves, you push on for another good hour and a half. And as you do, it starts to get a bit colder, and you think you start to feel a little bit more wind coming your way.
Just from in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's not a perfect path. It kind of winds, sometimes leaning towards the left to the right, but always in a incline. Again, not a drastic incline, never where it's a problem for the carriage or the horses, but a steady incline.
No, like, I don't know why I just assumed there'd be a fork as soon as I felt wind. I don't want to give you ideas, storyteller.
You kind of get the idea that as this is an exit and it is a guarded exit to be used in the case of like, oh shit, we've been invaded, we need a way out. It's not meant to be overly complicated. Like, it's more meant of the people who know that it's here, and anyone that got too far would then have to deal with the guardian in the dark. Almost like more of like it's a funnel to lead directly to her, them, whatever. Peter turned. Go ahead.
I stay on the carriage.
Yeah. You think you see a little bit of moonlight up ahead as you look up, and you think you see the cavern start to open up, and Peter says, he turns to all of you and he goes, we're close now. Remember your promise that you said you would give me time to speak with my people and try and convince as many of the innocents to flee before this kicks off.
We
And
did
if
agree that
possible- if
all of
possible,
it.
I still want an audience with that London-based Lupine of yours.
I will try as best I can.
I say we did agree to that, all of us, and I elbow Asmodeus.
Oh, I don't know why you're looking at me, as he's sitting there like taking a rag out and polishing the Gatling gun. You go on for about another 10-15 minutes, and it does indeed open up, and you hit the outside. There is a soft snow falling, semi-cloudy night as the moon goes in and out behind the clouds, and you realize that you are damn near top of the plateau that you guys had come towards. You see the hills on either side stretching out in almost a circular like fashion. And are you listening?
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess they're not alive with the sound of music.
However, what you do hear softly and from down below, the sound of voices occasionally being carried on the wind, the occasional howl of what sounds like a wolf, and as you hear drumming coming. Peter motions for everyone to as he gets down almost on the ground in a crouched stance, and in this almost like crouch walk starts to move forward. And about 50 feet up, you see a ledge at the edge of this plateau.
I'm gonna cast conceal on our carriage and everyone in.
Perfect. That definitely helps.
Atris will look at Peta. She won't say anything. She'll look at him to see if she'll, if she, you know what, just gonna go ahead and put up her code of silence.
Okay. Where you are now, you can see that unless you're already up here, the cavern entrance that you got, or exit in from the direction you guys were coming, would be damn near impossible to find. It is one of those things of, unless you were already up on this side and had come up, would be a hard thing to just accidentally stumble across. As you see that it kind of lit out on this side of the plateau, and that there's a whole lot of more of this plateau alone, not to count the other hills and rocky surfaces behind, to the sides, everything else. So it wouldn't be something you could just like stumble on easily. As you look down, you see that where you think that there would be more of this plateau or more of the hills is actually a hollowed out basin several miles across in any direction. Inside of that, you see what look like almost just barely pinpricks at this point, but dozens and dozens of campfires, teepees, little black figures of both animal and human or humanoid walking around. And from one or two locations around this basin, you see little pinpricks of light that you make out to be torchlight in different switchback paths that lead out of this basin up onto the ridges themselves, as well as what you assume about a quarter of the way on the right-hand side, what looks like a more well-lit path, which you assume is where the main entrance would have lit out down here. You see what looks to be a frozen lake down there, as well as a few different trees and setups. You see what looks like different farming little areas, currently not with anything in it, but just fields where you would assume farming would happen during those correct months for doing so, as well as an area for livestock. Again, they seem to be indoors at the time to keep them warm at night in the winter. But you get the idea that this is what you have been searching for quite some time. You have found your way to the Lupine village.
Look, there it is.
Except for you say nothing because cone of silence.
Leia just thinks in his head, never thought we'd actually make it here.
Peter looks at all of you and he goes like this, points down, and then as he points to the ridge line around this basin,
Liam pulls his top hair, yanks on his ear, rubs his nose, does this. Means nothing, but
Can't see it anyway.
Henry smacks you upside the head. Peter looks at Atris and kind of does one of these. You get the idea of like he wants to be able to talk to y'all.
Okay. Yeah, she'll drop it.
We've made it to my home. There are patrols. They don't come this way often, but, and he points to what looks like the couple of switchback paths They will sometimes play lookout. We don't expect much worry here because usually if someone's going to try and break through, they would try and come through the main entrance, not scale mountainsides to get in here. He points to, you see one, what would be furthest away from you, a kind of raised up area where the ground is higher up than some of the rest. And you see one larger structure with a couple of other ones around it. He goes, that is where and he kind of grimaces for a second, the now chief would be residing. Those other structures there weren't originally. That would be where the visiting chieftains would be holding council. And he points off to the left-hand side, those structures there, and you see a whole bunch of little campfires that are just pinpricks at this point, and teepees over there. Those weren't there the last time I was here. I would assume that those would be the visiting tribes.
Five of them, correct?
You see, where I'm checking my notes.
Well, I've got 5 chieftains besides Ichitai.
Yeah.
Then yes, yeah.
Yes,
so
6 total with Ichitai.
Yeah, so that would be 5.
And I'll kind of talk to PETA, and I'll give him. I don't know if I did this last session, so I'll say it this session. I give him a rundown of the wish I asked of the Guardian and the meeting that I saw between the 6 chieftains.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell him and let him know which ones weren't necessarily convinced of Ichitai. I know that which one was it? The one with dressed in modern times, salt and pepper, clean hair, mutton-chopped monocle. He wanted to know what was in it for them and seemed pretty skeptical. So while you're in there, if you could, I don't know, maybe follow up on that somehow, and maybe use this a way to pry our leverage a little bit more.
He smiles and goes, that would be, from what I've heard tale of, that would be Leader Sinclair, the same one who Liam wishes to speak to.
Indeed, he is the first one I thought of as well. But
What of
it does seem that there's only 1 or 2 clans that are for Ichitai. So we have a really good chance of maybe creating the divide a little bit more while we give you the day or 2 to get people out of there. Maybe you can sow some chaos somehow, or I don't know what you can do, but this seems like valid information that you should know.
Atris will procure the gem. Now, to her knowledge, I don't know if this was all in a vision or whatever. When she was gifted the gem to sense Murakuro's eyes, was that knowledge just given to her, or was this spoken out loud during the time?
I think I was the only one that requested a private in-brain for knowledge.
Yeah. So I think it was one of those things where I think everyone else got that as well.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was something that was manifesting and it could be heard, or if it was.
Well, I mean, the gifts were internal, because I mentioned that everyone kind of just seemed zone out and like would focus on each other.
Right.
All right, cool.
That's
All right, so in that case, go ahead.
I think the point of, at least if you're talking about the gem, not everyone knows about that, other than the fact that you now have this gem. However, she did mention to everyone that Murakuro's eyes seemed to be a gift not only from her, but her other sisters, and everyone got that knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. So in that case, she's going to procure the gem and look at PETA and say, what I asked from her was to see where your father's eyes were. I thought it was a great crime that it was taken, of course. according to Hood, this gets you close. It will glow when you're close to it. It is your father, and you are going ahead. I would offer this to you if you wish to use it.
He seemingly tentatively takes it from you and looks at it. I appreciate this. Thank you.
But there is one other interesting party. How would be, let's see. I believe his name is
Woman?
Looking Glass.
Oh,
But he seems to, what was the information we got? He's able to see into other planes. He seems like he'd be, not easily, but he would be open if some form of evidence was provided.
Looking Glass was a friend and companion of not only my father, but his father. They knew each other from when they were young. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. The mysterious hand that gives me food.
Mage hand. That's not in this game.
so,
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
hello. Well, I would be perfectly okay with trying to seek a private audience with Mr. Sinclair. I'm not sure who could actually make an attempt with Looking Glass.
I actually got some additional information that I just remembered. There was another chieftain, an old man who seemed to be in his 70s or 80s. He looked frail, and he also seemed very skeptical. He asked if he agreed to the treat or to the partnership with the Chitai. So that could be another possible string. And if this means anything, this is what Ichitai said. The full moon, father's gifts will light the way. If that's anything cryptic or that's just
Peter thinks for a moment and goes, the person you described could potentially be Looking Glass.
The only reason I think that is Looking Glass is because my notes say older Lupine.
older.
Yeah, you definitely got the notes that now you just got the note from Peter that Looking Glass was a friend of
That's right.
Murakuro's father.
Yep.
And that they grew up together. In other words, Peter's grandfather and Looking Glass knew each other from back in the day, kind of deal.
Correct.
And that thus Murakuro grew up around Looking Glass. So yeah.
Cool.
my entire the full note I wrote about Looking Glass was sees a lot, and I
They do
apparently just
that.
left it there. That was enough.
And that's all you need.
As well as information about his tribe, but you know.
Well, then and again, I'm open to others, but I have a possible suggestion for how we might deal with this. I know I can at least obfuscate myself, so I can attempt to sneak around to go find Mr. Sinclair, my lonesome. But if we present Atris's gem to Looking Glass, he might be a bit more open. The only person I think that may be able to get in there besides Wea is either himself or Atris. Wea obviously can be an owl. Noah could also sneak in, though. Noah, how are you diplomatically?
I wouldn't need it. No one would find me. I don't even smell like y'all.
Oh, no, I mean, once you got in, how would you be at diplomacy with
Nah.
the face of confidence?
I am a little skeptical getting close as an owl. I don't know what other animals come by here, if this is some place where you know, owls are rarely seen. I'm not 100% sure. Would it be pretty normal, PETA? Is that a normal occurrence here, or is this place special in a way that certain animals don't come here? How does that all work?
Animals and people alike, when they see us in our full form, have a tendency to be scared.
Yeah.
However, it is not uncommon for birds and other animals to find their way in, as many of us, other than in war times, are usually not in full. You would see it as what you think of when you think of my people, but that is not the form we normally take, except for special ceremonies, wartime, things of that nature. I will say that he says a word in that guttural, and he's just sitting there going, in English, malformed, who cannot change out of that form, so that you will see a few of them walking around that cannot change out of their battle forms. They tend to be kept far away from animals and things of that nature, and truth be told, are often looked down on by the rest of the people. You will also see both wolves and that cannot transform, while one or more of their parents are full Guru. The gene was not passed, and they do not have the ability to transform. They are still allowed to be part of the tribes, but oftentimes in more of a assisting position.
Well, one more thing too, Liam, on me scouting and being out there. That definitely costs resource, and I don't know. I mean, besides Barnaby, he's the only one here that can refill that without us finding something else. So, saving that resource, especially if we're gonna be here for a few days, might be a little bit more of a priority.
Well, if I'm correct, PETA, you just need the 1 day.
Is it 1 day or 2, PETA?
Chew, damn it, chew.
1 day will be the minimum of what I need. It all depends on how well you forget. I do not know how badly my name has been smeared among my people, thanks to Ichitai. The other thing to consider is I have to convince them that I am not a traitor, if they believe him or not. B, convince them to leave and not stay and fight and defend their homes. And C, convince them that there was foul play not caused by your kind. If your hope, as he looks at Liam and the rest of you, if your hope is to meet with any of them, for them to not kill you on sight, they have to believe that you did not commit this murder in the first place, and that there's any benefit to listening to what you have to say.
That's why you have a glowy gem.
We do have
I didn't know
our-
how you were going to do that without something to find the eyes, because, you know, if we'd done it, we wouldn't have just left those behind.
But I don't imagine we can locate. Peter, you can probably locate the eyes, but trying to take the eyes may not be the best idea, especially if you happen to present the eyes with no context.
I think I know what I could present to Mr. Sinclair. And I start rummaging through the storage spaces in the carriage.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember all those jewels and money that we got when we ended up in the Indian territory that we had to pay some to the Shimasi? Yeah. This seems like a good amount.
And what do you pull out?
Just a bunch of like the loose gold and everything that we just had stashed away in the carriage.
All right. Oof.
I definitely make sure to pick out like any pieces of silver.
Right. Ha!
Death
you.
package.
That'll go
Now-
over great.
Yes, Noah?
Liam, if I could be of any help, maybe I could drop off a very diplomatic letter to some of our guests.
Where would be a good meeting spot? Because yes, I agree that running into the village itself is highly unsafe.
Honestly, I would say probably either up here, near the, as I said, this tunnel is only ever traversed to give offerings to the Watcher in the Dark, and that only usually happens maybe once a week.
Everything down there looked fresh.
I agree. So I don't think they'd be coming by here recently, and as long as we did nothing to draw unwanted attention over here, again, he points across the way. The lookout points are there and there. We could ask to meet here.
I would then request that the letters be done in your language.
Right.
Only because at that point, that's not something that we on our own could falsify.
So I'm understanding is the idea that I write them, but Noah here delivers them as a show of good faith.
That is the hope. Do I have that correct, Noah?
I'd be okay with that.
It might be good if you were truly guilty. They may question why you would leave one of your own at risk. Choosing this as a meeting spot would also be a show of faith, because while it is outside of the village, it is not so far gone that a war party couldn't be on you before you had time to fully escape. And
when they do arrive, Noah, we will need the carriage definitely concealed. I don't necessarily want that to be given away. Not unless we could stuff it back in part of the cavern for a bit.
Well, in any case, we have a few days to prepare while we stay here. So that definitely gives us a little bit more of an advantage.
I like this plan.
Am I delivering? PETA asks, am I delivering the messages before or after I go to try and talk to my people?
Well,
I don't think we should be holding you up talking to who you need to talk to.
Your people's safety comes first here.
mostly
I
I think
can
if we
deliver
can,
the message.
I just think that if we can get them to meet us here tomorrow evening, this will give you the daytime to start making your preparations.
Well, then perhaps we should write the letters tonight if you wish them to meet with you tomorrow evening.
But yes, yes.
All right.
I look
Henry,
at
Quill.
Liam and I just kind of grumble. Are you just doing this for Henry's sake?
No, it's actually a
Is Henry hearing
tactical.
this conversation? Is he paying attention?
As Modius speaks up and he goes, look, if you're going to have them meet here, I recommend that carriage be back in the tunnel a bit, because if they sense a whole shit ton of silver, they might think that it's a trap that you're trying to lead them into.
Good
Got
point.
that right. We know y'all can sense it.
I mean, I'm good with just blowing them all away and seeing what happens, but if you all want to be all political about it.
Sounds like Sons won't agree no matter what we say.
What is it?
Modi.
I would rather face 1/3 of an army than the entire thing.
Agreed.
Political tactics do help.
Henry adjusts his glasses and goes, I think that this is our best bit of planning we can do. I also would recommend perhaps whatever bit of reconnaissance we can get. We need to find out what numbers we have to face.
And we need to know exactly where these letters need to be dropped off.
We also need to know if each of the chieftains brought, what size force did each of them bring with them? Are they completely equal? Are there some that are stronger than others? I will say that I know my knowledge of what Lupine magics and abilities are is somewhat limited, but from what I understand, it varies from individual to individual, as it does with you and your people, as he gestures to the vampires in the audience. As I understand it, the different clans and different individuals all have some similar overarching abilities, but some unique ones as well. So getting to know what we're facing would probably not be a bad idea. Peter answers and goes, yes, I can try and find that out. Wea, you mentioned the Ichitai mentioning the moon. There's in long time ago, we were only able to transform during different phases of the moon. Whatever phase the moon was in when you first transformed was the one that you were able to transform in the past. We have since learned to work around this limitation and transform at will. However, the different phases of the moon do hold power for those of us when they are the same phase that we initially transformed in. It's if I remember correctly, my father's phase was the full moon. So his eyes being a part of them, there's a chance that their abilities would be at their strongest during the full moon as well.
And if we do need the scout forces that bad, then I can definitely volunteer for that and do my best as an owl. That is definitely worthy of spending some resource.
I can naturally go in undetected, but unless I need to be staying here to cover our silence. The only thing is I'm not certain how deep I go in, if any one of your kind would be able to sense me in other ways. I know we have the scent bags and my obfuscate and the silence, but I don't know if it is simply something that I don't know about that they can use to see through it.
There are, and Peter's kind of talking about this, as I understand it, there are those of your kind that can see through certain abilities, as there are with some of our people. I can't say, which one cannot. As far as our senses of smell, much like with Wea, our senses of smell are strong. If this is wartime, they will be on alert. However, we have something of the element of surprise of, I do not think that they would have expected us to drop in right in their main base of operations. And
Hey, Peter, you ever get used to this smell? Walter pulls the little bag out of his thing.
no.
What, this one?
So it sounds like these will still be of use.
As Liam points out his, Peter lets out a little.
Maybe when you're older.
Now, Peter, does that mean that I too have that scent?
You have one of the bags, so yes.
He means his natural odor.
Oh, yes. You very much smell like most of your kind, only worse. You smell like one of your kind that has been rolling around in graveyard dirt.
And I very much need this back. Yes.
One does not mask the other. It's
a turducken of smells, essentially.
a what?
Oh, it's when you get a turkey and you stuff a chicken inside of it.
Never mind that
Oh
now.
wait, which one is it, the turkey or the duck first? Hold on. But
We-
essentially,
Asmodeus leans over to Liam. You been talking to Rebecca?
want to explain American culture in one word: turducken.
That sounds like some shimacy shit if I've ever heard it. But he goes, okay, well, then it seems like we have
Part of a plan.
2 or 3 groups. One group, or whether it be individuals or a small party, to go in as reconnaissance. Another to help draft this letter and then deliver it. I think Noah volunteered for that part of the mission. And then some to stay here to guard, and just on the off chance that any of my people come by, be able to pacify the threat.
Yes.
That does sound right.
So far, yes.
So-
I can go on ahead myself if you wish to have me do reconnaissance, unless you guys would like me to stay here and cover the carriage with my silence.
To be fair, Atris, you will get around far easier than I would. I only recommended myself going down if I was going to meet with one of them inside the village, which I would rather not do.
Very well.
Atris, you are the only one that can silence as well. So if anything happens, you can just make a clean exit or neutralize the situation
Indeed,
before
I
it
at least
turns
wanted
into
to make,
panic.
I at least wanted to make the offer. I assume you all will be able to take care of yourselves with the carriage.
PETA speaks up and goes, since they need me to write this in my language, I need to help them with that. But if you're willing to wait till we're done, I can at least guide you part of the way to help show you which part of the village is what.
I would appreciate that.
And you know, so he's kind of, you know what, Adris, give me a perception plus empathy roll.
Oh, my empathy is. I got one empathy. One.
One success.
Yeah.
You notice that he's not quite making eye contact with you that much. Like, ever since certain comments were made about you, he's not quite making eye contact. There's a little bit of awkwardness that wasn't there before.
Okay.
You might be an abomination and evil as far as he was raised, but he's also a 17-year-old young man. So,
Duly noted.
So Henry looks around and goes, well, then which of us are going to be part of which party?
I won't be sneaking around. I know where I'll be, right up here.
I'll be scouting.
I'll be helping draft the letters.
Having it will be.
Asmodeus goes, as politically minded and charismatic as I am, I think my abilities would best be used towards helping to guard the carriage here and keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Noah, are you scouting or are you staying behind to drop off the letter?
I'll be staying behind for this letter.
Okay. Bartleby actually offers and goes, Master, it is up to you, but I'm willing to go along with Atris. You know, I'm good at sneaking around behind corners and things like that. If there's anything useful that I think could be liberated off of a pouch or anything else, I would be able to probably procure that.
Bartleby, I am appalled that you would openly state in front of our guests that you may steal. You keep that shit to yourself. But yes.
And to be fair about
Right.
me, I'll be able to cover you with silence and my cloak as well, so it won't be like you will be unprotected.
He nods and goes, "Thank you. I would appreciate that."
But whatever, if you can determine what tents those chieftains might be in, simple descriptions. Noah, I'm assuming that it will be your animal friends dropping off these letters. I'm not quite sure how you plan to deliver them, that's why.
I was just gonna walk in, but I like your plan too. That sounds
Well,
nicer.
either way, if it becomes animal friend help, we'll need to be simple with our descriptions.
Henry pulls out, he's like, I have parchment here. We can write the letters. It's fine. And he looks around and goes, I think I'm the wild card in this. I'm more than willing to stay behind and give what suggestions I can towards the letters and help guard the carriage. I'm willing to move ahead with the reconnaissance party, as it was part of my job back in my Inquisition days.
Actually, I have a unique request.
Mm.
That plant inside the lake, it had, well, a somewhat of a frigid type of basis to it. Might you try and collect some?
And he looks at you and goes, did any of you notice, did it still affect you even through clothing, or was it only from skin to skin contact?
I didn't have any clothing when I was in there.
I remember. That's why I directed the question to everyone.
As far as I know, Atris didn't come into contact with it at all.
Yeah.
Well, then this will be an interesting field experiment then. Very well.
But Henry, you know me well enough to know by now, if I'm asking for that, I have a reason.
Use a stick.
When in doubt, Noah.
Oh, and I'm gonna give him a couple of my empty vials that I have. Just like, if I'm not sure what you have on your person, but at least this might be something you can use.
I think I can find something.
Okay.
And he goes, right then. I guess I'll go gathering. And he grabs one of the oil lanterns and lights it, and best of luck. I assume if I hear the sound of ravenous beasts and gunfire, I will come back as quickly as I can.
I'll call you.
He nods and kind of looks at all of you, and he adjusts his glasses and heads down the tunnel that you guys just came out of. Now, if I understand correctly, the scouting party agreed to wait till Henry's done drafting the letter, so that way he can be something of a guide down into the village.
Yes.
Okay, so letter drafting committee. PETA sits down with the parchment and writing utensils that Henry left behind. I'll admit, my father was more of the diplomat than I. So I will write down what you want me to, and maybe only speak up if I feel there is a obvious issue with what is being said.
So regarding the letter to Mr. Sinclair, since I'm assuming he's a businessman and it's about money, can I do a wits plus finance roll to help draft that letter?
Sure. What I was going to say is everyone who, if anyone has anything specific that they want to say, that's fine. And then we can just roll to see how well you get that point across. If you just want the dice to decide, everyone who's contributing to this, tell me what bit of knowledge, what angle you're coming at this from, because that'll help determine the role. So Liam, you're trying to look at this as like a finance. You're basically looking at this like a business transaction.
Basically letting him know that I have ties to, the California Gold Rush, about my trading company that has ties in Europe as well.
Okay. So yeah, this is going to be a wits plus finance roll for you.
We'll do at least one willpower for success.
Okay. Anyone else that's helping to draft the letter? Anything else you would want to add into this?
Vagueness. We want to be as vague as possible while delivering this message. Something along the lines of, if you want to know the truth, make an offering to the Watcher in the Dark.
Oh, okay. Now, is this in the same letter that's going to Mrs. Sinclair specifically, or is this just a separate generic letter to anyone that PETA can potentially draft?
Is this to Looking Glass?
If you want it to be, I'm sure you can write more than one letter.
Yeah, Henry left several different pieces of parchment. So you guys can choose whether you want this to be all one letter, if you want to go to specific parties involved.
I think specific letters might incline specific people to help us.
Same, but I do like Noah's suggestion as far as Looking Glass is concerned.
That's a good one. That is very nice.
Okay, so then Noah, I'm going to have you roll. This is going to be wits plus. I'll let you choose either wits plus. What am I looking for here?
I got 5 successes on mine.
Do you have enigmas on yours? Noah?
Me?
Yeah. So either wits plus enigma or wits plus expression.
Oh yeah, it's enigmas by far.
Okay.
That's so cool. You're like the only person who has that.
Yeah.
I have 2 in Enigma.
I have 2 as well.
Never mind. You're not unique.
No, it's the only time we ever got an Enigma roll. No one with Enigmas was involved in that thing.
Yeah.
I don't
So, Danny, how many successes did you get on yours?
I got 5.
Nice. Okay, I will note that down.
And real quick for the Looking Glass.
I got 3.
Okay.
For the Looking Glass letter, maybe we should we write in that we want to do justice to Markuro in finding his eyes, and have that be one of the points in our letter, or is that something that we should keep separate to ourselves?
Not if it sounds threatening.
Well, more of the fact that we honor him by trying to find and figure this out, rather than approach it more from like, we honor Morikuro by doing this to help honor his memory, rather than coming at it from like a negative perspective. Would that help, PETA, do you think?
Or we could try and ask him as a favor to the grandson of his friend.
PETA says, I'm not sure how much my that might also be confusing, as Ichitai is also the grandson of his friend.
I'm assuming you weren't widely known your lineage.
No.
Oh, that's
that
right.
might have to be
right. I forgot
more
about
of a
that.
personal conversation between people.
I forgot about that backstory of his.
Wait a minute.
Vagueness.
You got it.
PETA,
Yes.
Did you not also receive a gift from the woman in the lake?
I did, yes.
So then you passed the trial, which should show some proof of worthiness for you.
I don't know that it's something that can be seen.
Do you know what it is? No, he's shy. Everyone turn away.
I wish I could say that I had thought of something more strategic and more useful to our cause, but in the moment, I could only think of asking if his spirit was at peace.
Oh, so the green eyes glowing meant nothing. Got it.
Well, I got an answer and a gift.
Fine, it's your gift. You keep it to
No,
yourself.
I cannot see unto the future or the past as he did, but I did get a gift of the present, and I have an ability to help me tell if someone is lying or not. So
Have you lied
many
to me yet?
false truths have been said about me to me. I guess I just wanted to be sure that what is being said is the truth.
Well, in that case, you don't have a nice tushy.
Do you feel he has a nice tushy?
Cute.
All right.
I make things uncomfortable.
He goes, I don't know that that's better. So yeah, it's not guaranteed, but I can more easily discern lies now.
So it's not
I
something
hope
you
it-
can necessarily show off.
Other than the glowing of my eyes when it happens, but
That ain't nothing. Just hope you can stay sane knowing that through your days. Hey, I don't think this is meant to be written in some letter, but if you wanted us to be ready to shout to follow the teachings of the grandfathers, you're wanting us to wait till you've done all your conversating, or is that something that should maybe go in here?
it might be worth putting in. Looking Glass is, in every sense of the word, an elder and has followed the traditions from the time that he was young. Sinclair that is a businessman, but is loyal to a fault of his people and does look for their betterment and would not put them at risk. You can say that from what I understand, though I have never met him personally, his business sense is always seen in if any interaction, if there is gain for his people or not. As I said, if you feel it would help, I'd be more than willing to add it in. Just tell me what you want to say.
Shoot, as far as saying this turn of phrase that you told us, I feel you'd know if it was called for, Peter. I don't know. Follow the teachings of the grandfathers. Believe me, I've been rehearsing it in my head. I'm getting ready to shout it, just not, tonight.
It perhaps that will be the phrase we use so that way those loyal to Murokuro know when to act.
Dear Mr. St. Clair, you have
That's
won the
good.
Spanish lottery. Please provide your bank account, Rob.
Like, we are trying to contact you about your vehicle's extended warranty.
I am a temporarily inconvenienced prince from Louisiana.
Shit, that could actually be true.
Oh,
Why is this shaped like a pyramid? All right. Peter looks around and does anyone else want to add anything?
I can't really think of anything else.
Okay.
I wouldn't know
but
what
based
to
on
add.
what Peter's saying, I will actually say that, you know, I'm hoping to speak to him regarding a business venture that will greatly benefit his people.
Did you just say a business venture?
I said venture, but sure, let's put venture. How do you spell that in werewolf?
All right. All right. So
Oh,
that's.
I will put one of my my little insignias
Okay.
inside the letter so he knows it's the company.
Noted. Okay. Not enough for a whole nother reroll, but I will say I'll keep those 5 successes on yours, Mr. Sinclair. We have 3 successes for Looking Glass on his. Any other letters to anyone else? I'm not leading you guys. I'm just making sure before we kick this off.
See, my whole thing is I don't think that Enola will ever listen to us. She's the armless lady.
Yeah.
10 Bears is kind of one of those things of, yeah, I know he wants power, but if we're trying to talk to someone in a sentimental fashion and someone else in a business fashion, and then at the same time going a third guy, hey, want to screw over the other guy? It might kill our vibe with the other two.
It's gonna harsh your mellow.
Yeah. That's about
I mean,
all
we could drop him off just a letter saying that a power shift is coming and to be ready, and just leave that one anonymous.
The thing that's interesting from what you got from Peter about Enola is that she is fiercely against vampires even before your guys' interaction underneath the San Miguel mission. However, she was one of the ones that Peter feels like if it came out that Ichitai betrayed Murokuro, Enola might not be pro you guys, but she would definitely be anti Ichitai, where she would turn on him. The one that was the wild card was 10 Bears of the would he turn against Ichitai in a play for power, or would he side with Ichitai with a chance of potentially stabbing him in the back down the road, kind of.
And Asim doesn't have any personal stakes in any of this. So it doesn't feel like he'd be swayed one way or another. He just is there because he has to be.
Yeah, you very much got the idea that he was there out of like duty bound, like, okay, you called, I came. What's the sales pitch? Because he's all the way from Egypt. So
Yeah, we have no info on him.
My note about Hasim is simply looks different.
Wow.
I have no idea why I wrote that.
Wow.
He has the moniker of Stargazer.
Well, that's his clan
And he has a golden Ankh necklace.
tribe.
That's all I wrote, really. Smoking a pipe and has a red fez.
No, I wrote like the origins, ethnicities, etc. of everyone, but I also wrote looks different. So something's different about Hasim.
All right, so should we drop off a anonymous be ready for a power shift note to 10 Bears?
If someone's dropping off notes, you think they ain't gonna figure out that the same person's dropping off notes? Man, you're just banking on him not sharing it.
I think we should play to our strengths.
I also think that power hungry people
Things-
don't share that power shifts are about to happen.
Yeah, I just think we should play to our strengths with the knowledge that we have of the letters going out and not maybe go for a wild shot.
Very well.
Playing to the strengths might benefit us a lot more than Random.
Vagueness.
Illusion.
Something at some time, at some place, might be going down.
Be ready.
Or
Hey,
up.
I proposed. I've been vetoed out. We're good. Let's move on.
All right. You see the scratch lettering go down as he writes the 2 letters. And he rolls up the parchment and he hands them both to Noah. Noah, would you want to travel with the investigative team? And I can point you in the direction that I believe the chieftains would be staying at.
Yes, please.
All right. He looks to everyone else and he goes, I trust you to keep your promise that nothing will happen until we are in agreement of what the plan is. I'm going to spend the day talking with my people. If they will speak to me, I most likely am going to have to be in hiding as well, because if Ichitai and those loyal to him see me, I will most likely be killed on sight. I am hoping that some of my closest friends will at least be willing to hear my side of things before they turn me into him.
If you're in danger, is your plan to just get taken? Can you run back here?
I would not risk your exposure by running back here. I would probably try to escape out the front or one of the side paths. If escape does not seem possible, I will face Ichitai and try to... I will hope that enough of those that were at least loyal to Murokuro will demand that I at least have a trial, in which case, though he will most likely call for my execution, I can speak my truths before I am killed. If those loyal to Murokuro find me first, to keep that very thing from happening, I will most likely be killed on sight.
Would the trial be held on the same day?
I do not know.
In
I
some
will-
impatient sorts among your kind.
I will hope so, because the longer I am left in captivity, the longer a accident might befall me at the hands of one of Murokuro's followers.
You mean
We
one
call
of
it an
his
Epstein.
followers?
Let's just say a accusation of my attempt to flee, and suddenly I get 5 or 7 warning slashes in my throat.
You think you could take on your brother in a duel? If you had to?
You saw how well it ended for me the last time.
Yeah, you learned. You got stronger after. You don't look like the same person you were before then.
Well, I'm less bloody, but my pride would call me to say yes, but it is no secret that Ichitai is older and more trained in his arts, and if he is in some way channeling any fraction of our father's power to bolster his already existing abilities, I don't know that I would be able to take him on a one-on-one fight, at least not openly face to face.
All I'm saying is if you ever get the chance, might be some poetic justice to get him in his fucking eyes himself.
Trust me, I have dreamt about little else these last many nights.
I clap Peta on the shoulder and give him a nod.
Right. Yes. Well, if we're gonna go, we should go. Where are you staying as yourself, or are you?
I will follow you to get a little bit of the hands-on of where we're going, but once we get to the point, I'll transform then.
Noted. All right. So, Bartleby, Noah, Atris, and Wea set off following PETA as he goes along the edge of this ridge down that goes down to the ravine, as he starts to head in the direction of one of the switchback trails off in the distance that leads down into the main basin of the village. Those who are staying behind, Liam, Walter, Asmodeus, Henry's down in the cavern. What are you all doing to help guard? Are you where are you playing the carriage? What is your guys' plan while the rest of the party traverses into the village?
Didn't we agree that Asmodeus would put the carriage in the cave?
I mean, I assist with that effort. Like
Okay. How far down into the cavern do you want to go?
all the way now. I mean, how many hours did it take us to get from the lake up to?
It was about an hour and a half traverse from the lake to the exit.
Sounds like we should just try to not be visible from the entrance.
Okay. I mean, a good 10, 15 feet in would get it that it's not visible from the ridge. Because since it was a what was a incline and now a decline for you, you go 10 or so foot back, it's not visible from the top. And again, you get the idea that short of someone being drawn to this location or dropping off an offering for the guardian, that according to what PETA said, this particular path is not the common outlet into where the village goes or where people are traversing.
Indeed. So I mean, that's all I plan to do. I'm kind of warring with myself about whether to go try to watch what's going on, but that just sounds like I'm begging to get noticed and seen. So I'm not going to do anything.
Okay. Liam, what are you going to do with your time here?
I will observe Henry and make sure he doesn't get into too much trouble while collecting my lakeweed.
Okay, so you're going to go further down and actually try and meet up with Henry?
Yeah, may as well.
Okay, cool.
I don't need that played out, though.
Okay. I might make you make a roll at some point of just like assisting him. Okay. So, away team, red shirts.
I do want to talk to PETA real quick while we're traveling.
Okay, no problem.
And I want to say I've had a run-in with the female werewolf chieftain. What was her name again? I can't ever remember. Enola, thank you. And I do know that one of your kind can definitely take out multiple of ours, and that you overwhelm us. But on what level does someone missing an arm have to do in that equation? Does that disable you guys pretty well? Because an idea I had is, since we have a little bit of history, if she ends up not taking our side and siding with Ichitai, if I could pull her away, I have something that can reverse her transformation and give me the upper hand on a one-on-one fight. If it comes to that. That is not something I wish to do.
We have to very much keep in mind, and he's saying this quiet but loud enough that, because all of you are pretty close.
Yeah,
together.
Whispering.
Essentially stage whispering at this point. And you'll notice that he's leading you all where you're all kind of crouched down, kind of going from like rock to rock, mainly so that way there's not an obvious silhouette of you just strolling along the ridge of this thing. That he goes, we have to understand that there's always the chance that the elders might have to be, if not killed, incapacitated to help sow chaos and infighting among the warriors to help thin their ranks. I've only met her a few times before. She is a very capable warrior. The Black Furies are known for being some of the fiercest warriors of any of our people across the globe, let alone in this area. The loss of an arm will hinder some of her abilities, but a wounded animal is sometimes even more dangerous than one that is not. If you can reverse her transformation, that of course any of us not in full war form will be weaker and more easily attacked. It will be the healing.
Right, the healing factor.
Silver, of course,
You do have
stops
silver.
our healing factor. But keep in mind that all other wounds gained, one of our best abilities is being able to heal quickly from damage.
Right.
So it's a matter of getting one of us down and keeping them down.
Alrighty, well, just thinking out loud.
It definitely is a strategy. As I said, her respect and admiration for Murkuro is matched only by her hatred of your kind, which is not uncommon among my people, as we are taught from a young age that you can tell he's trying to, as always, he is trying to present himself as this warrior, but it's still a 17-year-old teenager trying to talk about things that put himself in a very awkward position of you are seen as abominations and as the very thing that are leading to what we think will eventually destroy the world. I'm sure, very little of the other planes and what lies in there, but we are seen as warriors for Gaia fighting against the Weaver's chaos, and that your kind, in interrupting the flow of life and death, add to that chaos. So their hatred of you stems not only from personal experiences, but also from a need to save the very planet itself. That is a difficult indoctrination to forget about.
Right. On the mission.
It takes you guys a good better part of an hour to, especially since you're not running and you're having to kind of hunker down and everything else. He eventually leads you. You've now gone about almost a mile around the edge, and you see lit torches, and he kind of looks back at you all. I will say I'm going to need all the vampires to make a courage roll. However, the difficulty is only 5, because as the torches are stuck in the ground, they are not being brandished at you. And it's not uncommon in this day and age, before, a whole bunch of electricity was going around. that fire as a light source is not an uncommon thing for you all.
Because difficulty was 5, I got 1 success.
Okay.
2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes for Noah. Okay. And Bartleby doesn't need to roll. So y'all fine. It's one of those things. There's a little bit of that flinch of the fear of the Red Death, but you're able to keep it at bay. Which means I'm not going to make you roll for any of the other torches that you go past for this whole thing. You do see the occasional humanoid. This switchback path, it is a good ways down because this goes all the way from the top of this ledge down to the basin where is the level that the village is at. He looks at both Noah and at Atris. If there was ever a time for us to not be seen and not be heard, now is that time.
She'll nod and throw both her Silence of Death and, in this case, Cloak the Gathering, because she'll be covering Bartleby and I suppose PETA as well, if he wants to be covered.
Okay. And then Noah, you've got you and Wea? Or I assume that between the two of you, between the two of you, there's enough of a bubble that you're covering everybody.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
I could cover everyone here.
Okay. So Liam, I need you to roll for also Danny, so it doesn't get confusing. Danny, I need you to roll for Bartleby. You're muted, so I can't hear you.
I know who I am.
I can't hear you. I'm not listening to you.
Dick.
I need you to roll for Bartleby. Everyone else roll a Dex plus Stealth roll for me. Because you're obfuscated, the difficulty balances out to be 5 just between the Lupine sense of smell, your bags, the moving rock, any loose rocks or anything else.
What was the difficulty?
Yeah.
Difficulty 5. 10 successes. Shit.
4 successes.
Yeah. You all have a moment of not even knowing if Atris is even fucking there. She is the deadly silence. She is uber spider farts. But you are convinced that you are all well hidden, well obfuscated. The shadows seem to follow and mold with you as you make it down. You notice that this is actually a very well constructed set of, some of them are stairs, and it seems to be a combination of wood. Like some of them are more like a ramp, but like with logs cut in half and used as like footholds as you're coming up and down it. And stone. It's a combination of wood and stone, but extremely well crafted, well preserved. It doesn't at all seem to, while it doesn't seem new, it definitely has decades of years on it. It doesn't at all seem to be deteriorating. You do every so often see newer stones or newer pieces of wood that you get the idea that as things have worn over time, they are quickly repaired, replaced, put in. And let's see. Okay, so as you're going up and down, you do see a humanoid, looks like a group of, at this time of night, it actually looks like a small group of 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, and they're coming up this walkway, which is about wide enough for 3 or 4 people to be 3 or 4 people to be walking shoulder to shoulder at a time, which you guys get, that's human size. That would be good for like 2 lupines to be walking shoulder to shoulder at one time if they were in full battle form. So let's see how they do. Yeah. One of them goes, and in a language that none of you except for PETA understand, looks at one of the other ones and just goes, oh, and like kind of ribs one of them in the shoulder, and he just sits and goes,
I didn't do it.
And they, after that initial pause, walk past you as you keep going. And you do notice as you look up ahead that the moon does seem pretty close to full. You continue down, and it takes you another good long. You get the idea that people that come up here are either looking to very much not be noticed, or are here to replace guards that are up on the top playing lookout kind of thing.
Or it's the version of make out point.
Possibly. It is not impossible that was what was going on. Because you very much get that up here, there's not really... PETA at one point does point out from here, from one point to the other, little huts that seem to be like little lookout guard towers. Over further into where the plateau kind of turns into the hills, but that the main village is all down there, and there's not really a whole lot up here other than that.
Right.
You make it down. It takes you a good long while, another 45-50 minutes to get. So at this point, we're now hitting around midnight-ish by the time you get down to the bottom. So do clock that when you guys think about how long it's going to take you to get out of the village, get back up the stairs, and back towards where the cavern is.
So what did we travel? What, roughly about 2.5 hours, it sounds like?
Around, more of around 2 hours, I would say, give or take. It was about a 2-hour thing from...
We're roughly about, what, 1 in the morning right now?
Midnight, actually.
Okay, yeah. Let's give it an hour.
Okay.
I can always fly back to the cave as well and save some time on my behalf.
You get down to the bottom of the stairs, and about a block or two down there, you see some trees. Some of them look dead, or at least, at the very least, in hibernation at the time. There is a couple of pines here as well. This particular one let you off by where the frozen lake is. And you notice that the lake does seem to have what looks like, at this point, frozen or dried up outlets where water, probably like when it rains and things like that, it collects here and then runs off out from under where this plateau is, maybe into... You do remember the Tears of the Mother? So those... you get the idea that maybe it leads to that. Maybe it's another little bit. So the water definitely lets out somewhere, but it seems to collect in this big frozen lake currently. And yeah, so you don't see a whole lot of people out here this time of night. You get the idea that where most of the... Now you can hear a lot more of the... You hear the drums, you hear talking back and forth, the occasional howl, what almost sounds like a dog bark or growl, but it all seems to be more into where the village is. You do see a... well, actually, before I tell you what you see, go ahead and give me a perception plus alertness roll, everybody.
What was that roll?
Perception alertness.
3
Three sa-sa-sa-s?
Yeah.
Perfect.
What my shirt says. A success.
That's how many sasasas you needed. Anyone else?
1 second to.
Like, I know how to speak words.
4,
3.
3. How'd Bartleby do? Four. Okay. You all notice a little ways on the edge of the lake, there is a small structure which would actually looks like a relatively small TP structure there, where there is a older gentleman kind of sitting out there outside of his home, asleep, just. And again, he's a little ways off. You can just barely make him out from this distance. There seems to be a fire, his own little personal fire there that has kind of burnt down almost to just low flames and embers. And he seems to be bundled up in a blanket and just kind of sleeping there. That's all. You note that he's there. And it seems like he has some gear. Which did anyone get a more than 3 successes?
Just 3.
4. Okay. Noah and Bartleby notice that he seems to have some gear which almost looks like ice fishing gear. That he has some stuff that he's caught and some poles and different baskets and gear like that he has at the time. So you get the idea that this is just a guy that's out here, lives out here by the lake, out by fishing. But the main center of the village seems to be further in. You kind of feel the tug of, since you can kind of sort of see each other since you all obfuscated in the same place. It's just one of those things of you keep in mind to keep an eye on each other, otherwise you'll lose sight of each other. PETA motions to move forward as you begin walking towards the village proper. And you get in, and as you see, most of the structures here seem to be, as far as the living dwellings, seem to be teepees. It is a little bit more of the traditional Comanche structures of this point. And you get the idea that while the Lupines do have a culture, it's also somewhat influenced by the region that they're in. Ichitai holds up and he looks at Noah and he points towards where the center of the village would be. You get the idea is towards the center. And he draws on the ground almost kind of like a "you are here" kind of thing, and shows a way to cut in, and he points to one large circle with a couple of other ones in a semicircle around, and he points there, and he points to where you put the letters in your pack and points to that location on the map.
Is he pointing towards the center circle or towards the outer semicircle?
You get the idea that he's pointing to that semicircle area kind of thing, rather than a specific this one. Because again, you know through talking to him, he hasn't been here since the others arrived. The others all arrived after he got exiled out and Murakura was murdered. You just get the idea that he's saying that that area is where the leaders would be, and you'd have to probably investigate as to who's staying where, kind of deal. because he did mention up on the ridge that the largest structure in that area is going to be probably where Ichitai has taken over, because that used to be Murakuro's home. And so you get the idea that that's what Ichitai has taken over. But the other ones are more for like visiting people. So you'd have to figure out who's staying where, kind of thing.
Okay.
He then looks at you, and then he looks up at where the moon is in the sky, and then points to, in a trajectory from the moon down to the ridge of the plateau. And I won't make you roll for it. You get the idea that he's saying that when the moon hits the ridge, you should be back here.
Yeah, that I got to get out of here.
Yeah, that's basically without saying anything, this is where your two parties are going to reconnect, so that way you all can be sure that no one's getting left behind and you all getting out of here at the same time. He looks to Bartleby and Atris and Wea, and he's giving the indication that the other group, if we're going to do some investigating, need to go what would be towards the left side of the village.
I'm gonna reach towards Wea and tap him on the shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and then spread my arms wide, because I gotta leave, and he's not covered.
You're muted, Wea, which is appropriate, but
Yeah, it is. I was role playing. Damn it.
yeah, right. Sorry. Full immersion.
Yeah. I will take my time and spend 1 blood point, and not that it's easy to see, but the body will crankle back down and form into this tiny little screech owl,
Okay,
and just put my wings up, and I'll just
take off.
yeah. But
Okay.
I will stay within eyesight of God damn, these freaking names, man. They're too much for me. Not Ichitai.
PETA.
PETA, there we go. God,
Okay.
I'll stay within eyesight of him so I can still get his trail as we go.
Okay,
in.
so I
His name
want
is Bill.
you to make a perception plus alertness. All the normal bonuses you get from being an owl, but then the difficulty. Are the bonuses that they subtract from the difficulty, or just add to?
The rule on the owl form is -3 difficulty to all perception.
Okay.
That's eye based.
Cool. It is difficulty 7, and that is with -3 because you are trying to, from a distance, keep an eye on obfuscated people.
Oh shit, that's right. He's obfuscated. Oh, I could do it. I have faith. This is my part in the group is perception. Oh man, oh, you said it's 7.
Yes, I did. Atris and Noah are good at what they do, so.
Well, they may be good, but I got 5 on that.
Okay.
So I'm a
So
perceptive
you
little
are,
owl.
unless something else gets your attention away, you're able to keep eyes on where Atris, PETA, and Bartleby are going. Noah, because no, I assume you start taking off in the other direction. As soon as you have to focus between one or the other, it's kind of like a mirage fading. Noah just kind of disappears, and you completely lose track of where he was. So, what I am going to say is I want Atris and Noah to just roll a d10 for me. And then, Walter, are you still around?
Okay.
I am from very far away.
Good. I want you to roll for me, and I want Liam to
Oh.
roll for me, and we're gonna see who gets to play out what first.
Oh,
So
okay.
eight. God damn it! You two have to roll again to fight it out.
Well, wait, what is the roll?
Just roll a d10.
I got another
Oh,
8.
the Chad die it is.
You got a 10.
Okay, so the 10. So far, Noah's top
Shit.
dog.
6.
6. Okay, so I think it is Noah, Atris, Walter, Liam. And Chad, unless you split from the Atris party, I'm gonna say you're with them.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till they do their thing, then I'll split off.
Okay. Noah, go ahead and let's see. I want you to give me a wits plus stealth roll to try and see how well you traverse this area and stay to the path that PETA kind of pointed out to you.
I rolled a 7.
Okay. A7 or like 7 successes?
7 successes.
Perfect.
Okay.
That is very different.
Seriously.
Though you have never been here before, the layout of the village makes a lot of sense of where the important buildings seem to be in the center, and then the things just kind of branch out from there as far as like living. So you get the idea that it's definitely different than Western European towns. You kind of get the idea that there's a lot more sense of community in the sense of like everyone works together on this. And so the first thing you see as you're traversing is you're actually going through you're kind of weaving in and out behind different teepees that are there, that you get the idea that are personal like living dwellings as you're getting closer to the village proper. Every so often you'll see a structure that someone built to try and keep like some horses and things like that in there, and keep them out from the elements. Again, there's a soft snow falling, so there's a little bit of weather, but you get the idea that they're keeping them there to keep them from going. Every so often, you come across, there is either someone in human form or someone in full-on wolf form. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of, as of yet, you haven't seen anyone in any of the in-between, the 3 in-between forms. But you'll see some people talking amongst themselves. You'll see people going in and out of the teepees. And when you do, you kind of like instinctively just kind of freeze, hunker down, make no sound, make no movement. And then push on forwards. There does seem to be a one thing that you definitely circumvent is in the center of the village, there's a giant group of about 3 fire pits. And these things are very big, where they have very large logs. And for the first time, you actually see someone in full lupine form grabbing a very large, what could be just a chopped up piece of a tree trunk and putting it in the fire to keep it going. And I won't make you roll for courage because you know enough not to. Okay, I'm not going to go right here, but you definitely see lots of seats around these fire pits, which look like this is a communal gathering place. There still seem to be a couple of people that are gathered there and talking because it is at this point a little past midnight, so it's not extremely late, but late enough that like the main group of people have probably already gone to bed or to sleep or anything else. Give me a perception plus. This is going to be either etiquette. I'll let you do a couple different things because there's a couple things that to be. This is going to be either you can either use perception or wits, and this is going to be craft or etiquette.
Same amount for either.
Well, just let me know which one you choose, just so that I know what to give you information wise.
I'm gonna go wits crafts.
Okay.
Oh my god, I got 2 10s in a row. Oh, never mind. I got a 1 after that. So I got 3.
Okay. One thing you notice is that the structures on the further on the outside of the village seem to be smaller, not as well constructed, although effective. They're efficient. They're not deteriorating or anything, but not as ornately decorated with paints and things like that on the hides that make up these things. Definitely not as large. And you're reminded of what Peter said about how those of his people who are technically of the people, but do not have the ability to transform, are kind of seen as like second class citizens. And you're wondering if maybe that's where their homes are, where they're kind of kept to the outside, where they're still part of the village, but there's a little bit of a distinction there. You go around the large communal space, where there's about, at this time of night, there's about 15 different individuals, some human form, some you see a couple of wolves, some of them awake, some of them seem to enjoy sleeping by the fire, all sitting around. And you do see that 1 or 2 of them seem to be armed, where they have spears at their side, but not all of them. And you go around and you kind of get the idea that you want to basically make a semicircle around and then push forward towards the center. With that second leg, give me 1 more wits plus stealth roll, please.
Five.
Once again, using that central area as your kind of main target, you're able to get it so that way you have it directly to your back when you know that you've gone halfway around, so that way it'd be as if you cut straight through. And you continue pushing in. Eventually you do come to, you see what looks like smaller versions of the plateau that makes up this entire thing. These raised up, not terribly so, but almost to the point of where they look like different pads of earth. And so there's one that's only about like 2 feet off the ground, another one that so there's like one that's 2 feet off the ground, another one that to the left that's about 3 feet off the ground, a more central one that's about 5 feet off the ground, and then a much larger oval shaped one that's about 15 feet off the ground. On that structure, you see one gigantic teepee structure. I mean, this thing is huge. We're almost hitting like yurt, like large status there. And one thing you will notice about all of these is that, except for some of the ones that were on the outskirts of town, these are all tall enough and wide enough that a full-grown lupine could be in these. But even by that standard, all of these, the ones in the center, are extremely well decorated. You actually see above what would be the entrance of the main one, 2 eyes painted on it, one in yellow, one in blue. And give me a perception plus alertness roll.
I got 3 on that one.
You see what looks like almost splitting the eyes down the center, a pointed upwards black spear. And the paint looks relatively fresh. Like, of all the paint that's on this thing, you get the idea that that's some of the newest, with 3 eagle feathers coming off of the shaft of the spear.
Shaft of spear in between 2 eyeballs. Okay.
So that's Ichitai's symbol then. That's
You get the idea, yeah. And the eyes are like midway through the spear. We're not dicking it where they're at the bottom and the spear is coming up.
Sorry, still a dick in my opinion.
You know what? Art is interpretive, man. Whatever you feel, go with your gut, or any other part of your body that you want to go with.
Every hole is a goal.
Yes. But it looks like there have been other paintings and other symbols, and just judging from the eyes and from the spear, you get the idea that these are the symbols of the different chieftains over time that have taken on this building as their residence. And there seem to be a couple of other ones. There are, let's see, there's 3 on either side of the big one. Again, all of these are the largest living structures you've seen. You get the idea that this is either where people of import of the village stay all the time, and maybe they leave it for guests as kind of a system. But you get the idea that this is the place that PETA was showing, and you get the idea. You actually see smoke coming out of the inside, because these things do have gaps in them, so smoke can escape and things like that. You actually see that there is a central fire pit area currently not lit in the center of these 7 semicircled, but you also get the idea that there are fires happening inside as well, controlled fire to keep it warm and comfortable.
Okay. Do any of the semicircle have symbols on them, or anything recognizable? Not scratch marks. I don't know how to read those.
Go ahead and give me a wits plus politics roll.
Can I add lupine lore to it?
You can.
All right. I got a 4.
Cool. There are symbols on there, but nothing you recognize, and you get the idea that given that these other chieftains are visiting people, they probably wouldn't have their own permanent symbol attached on here. It'd probably be looked on the same way as if I stayed at a B&B and I sat there and tagged the inside with my logo.
No, I don't see why not.
Well, that's because you have how many darts in larceny?
Yeah.
So there's going to be some investigation that you feel needs to happen in order to. I will also say that one thing you do see is how long do you wait there for? Do you wait for a bit?
I'm gonna try to slowly approach the semicircle to get a closer look at each one.
Okay. All of a sudden you see one of the flaps open up on one of the sides, and someone that definitely looks like a warrior comes out, seems to be in Comanche dress, and he comes out, and just from the flap, it's going to be a perception plus alertness. Difficulty is 8 because you're getting a fraction of a second to like glance inside as the flap is opening up.
So I got 2.
Okay. For a brief second, you see that there are several individuals inside one of the side structures. And you get the idea that if that's the same, that each one of these could be housing multiple individuals. Beyond that, unfortunately, with what you got, you weren't able to get a look as far as like how they were dressed or anything else. So no telling of like what that means, but just that each one has several people in it, potentially.
Okay, that makes sense. It's gonna take a little deeper investigation then. Gosh, I'm just trying to track down the chieftains. I'm not sure if dropping off the letters to random tents will help. I am gonna find a nice little shady spot and hide out behind the semicircle and keep watching, see if I can catch another tent flap.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I will say then I'm going to flash back to you because it's going to take it's not going to be like an instantaneous kind of thing. So I will cut back to you then.
I mean, you could make it one.
I will say this. Give me another quick perception plus alertness roll.
Okay.
Same difficulty.
That one was a 3.
Okay. With 3 successes, you see a different flap open up, and you notice that in there, because 3 successes got you a little bit more, all women inside. However, they seem armed to the teeth, as you see one of them is holding a stone, as you notice someone one-handedly sharpening an axe on the stone.
All right, we know whose tent that is.
And that leads you to believe that the chieftains are not only, this is probably where the chieftains are staying, but that they are not necessarily staying like multiple chieftains in one tent, more of that each one brought a smaller part of their entourage to stand as guards, protection, insurance, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though PETA indicated that the larger part of the war party is being towards where the other group was heading towards, you get the idea that maybe each chieftain brought some smaller guards with them. But you do get the idea that you are in the right place. So now it's just a matter of sussing out who's in what tent.
Yep.
Okay, so now I'll cut to now that you have that information. Okay, so Wea, you're an owl. Atris and Bartleby, you are sneaking along with PETA. he is staying to the outskirts of the town. And you kind of see, Atris, you know that this actually is somewhat reminiscent of, you've read stories while you've been back home in Alamut about the native peoples of the Americas and stuff like that. And you've actually heard about the TP structures and been kind of interested in that because much like the Bedouins out in the deserts from where you're from, the whole point of these structures is that they are not necessarily permanent structures. They can be taken down, they can be moved, you can travel with them. And you see far off, there seems to be the village proper that seems to be a little bit more permanent, but then further off, there are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of these structures that have been set up, not completely separate, but like more to the outskirts of town. And you get the idea that that's where the war party is. All the, basically the warriors that the different chieftains brought with them and the temporary locations they've been given while they're all staying here. And I'll say all of you, Bartleby, Wea, Atris, you very much get the it was one thing to say a whole lot of Lupine, but this is, in an all and out war, you would probably have to try and either convince Mr. Black or Lord Pembroke or both to join forces and bring like the full force of their people to deal with this, or
And everyone time to pack up and go home because nope.
Or several more Gatling guns. Like, but he seems to be looking around on the outskirts, and you all notice this too, of that the not these tents that are the newer ones, but the ones that are part of the town but further to the outskirts are the more plain, the more simpler, smaller structures. And you notice every so often someone will come out and it just seems like a normal person. Sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes a wolf. You'll see a wolf kind of push the flap open, and you'll see a wolf kind of
Sometimes an undecided.
right? And so he then goes and is silence still up?
Yes.
Okay. He points at one structure and basically does the and he points to you and Bartleby and up at the owl that's kind of circling around. And he points to the moon, and not as far as the time that he gave Noah, but you see that he indicates the moon for a little bit further down. And you actually see him transform into wolf form and slink off to that tent. So you three are now by yourselves. Bartleby is seeming he is looking around, he is keeping his eyes on everything. What do you and Wea choose to do?
All right, so we basically need to, like, because you did describe essentially three broad areas of where settlements are, basically the village, the war party, and the temporary elder structures. Basically, we need to get a grasp of how large everything is, how many, who lead, where the leaders are, if anyone's, basically just scouting everywhere, basically just she'll probably want to start like a kind of a wide search pattern perimeter, and like if there's any way of getting closer to get like details, she'll do that.
Okay. Did you want to go deeper into the village? Did you want to stay on the outskirts? And if you stay on the outskirts, do you want to go in a clockwise, counterclockwise position?
We're gonna begin outside, and we're I think he said left, so we'll go in I believe that's clockwise direction.
Okay. And Wei, are you just going to be keeping pace with those on the ground?
Okay. So at this point, I'll probably branch off, and I want to observe their forces. I want to see, how many of them came from each clan. I want to see their differences from clan to clan.
Okay.
I pretty much want to get a full lowdown on what their arsenal looks like.
Okay.
And what their military forces are looking like, and where they're located, and where each clan is located.
Okay.
If I can get all that information, it's all military based.
Yeah. I get what you're trying to get, kind of thing. Absolutely. I will say, as soon as you fly off, you will lose sight of Atris and Bartleby.
I do know the meet here at a certain point of the moon.
Yep.
That's what I know.
Yep. Go ahead and give me both Atris. Bartleby can roll this too, Danny, if you want. And Wea, give me a wits plus survival roll, please.
Oh, what's my owl wits? Does that change?
I think we said that mental things stay the same because it's still your brain.
It's the same.
You're just
anyway.
in an owl form.
Yeah, it's all good.
I got 2, and that's difficulty 8 because I have nothing in survival.
Okay.
I got 2 as well.
Okay. You all get basically that from where Peter pointed in the sky. You've got about an hour that he's giving you to do your thing.
Cool.
And as of yet, you don't hear any sounds of fighting happening anywhere, so you don't think that he's immediately being like fucked over. Every so often you do hear howl, some of them a lot closer than you probably would like, some of them more off on the ridges, so you get the idea that there's very much a communication system happening of lupines checking in with each other, kind of giving all clears, giving things like that. So Atris and Bartleby, give me a... Is there anything specific? Are you doing just a kind of a more generic search around, or is there anything specific you're looking for?
We're pretty much similar to Whale. Like we really are just trying to see, counts, who looks like they may be minor leaders, because we have the outers, but maybe we have people in between, anything that may visually look like, what we can gather to be,
okay,
as a whole.
I will say this, and that way you can decide if this changes your plans at all. Going counterclockwise would lead you more towards like village proper kind of thing. Going clockwise would be more towards the temporary camp that seems to be all... You get the idea that there's most of the lupines in here can also be warriors. So you get the idea that those that live here are the standing army that which Ichitai has to, but it'll be some investigation of seeing how many of those are just civilians, how many of those are actually like battle ready kind of thing. Towards the left on the outskirts is more where the temporary encampment, that seems to be where the war party of visiting lupine are, and that's the direction you saw where Owl go.
Okay, so seeing him go in that direction, I will go ahead and change to counterclockwise. So we will investigate the strength of the Lupine Village.
Okay, so that way, so it's going to be kind of like gathering different sources of information and stuff like that. Okay, so then, if you're trying to assess that, that's more than just looking. That's more of like you're closely looking.
Yeah, so I'll probably start off in the outskirts, but then as she finds opening, she will go in deeper in and starts getting more detail.
And I need to also know: are you planning at all to try and look inside any of the structures, or are you sticking mainly to what you can see on the outside?
As of right now, no plans to go inside anywhere. It's going to be purely visual on the outside. No, like nothing. She doesn't want to go inside.
Perfect. And then Danny, I'll let you decide what would is Bartleby just following Atris's lead, or what is he looking for to report back?
Now we saw the or was it just Noah who saw like the big thing that's probably Ichitais?
You saw it in a distance, like when you guys were on the top of the ridge, you saw it as a much smaller, from like a couple miles away.
Okay, so how close is that now?
It's not in vision yet, but you get the idea that it's in the more center of the village.
Okay, I don't want to go towards the center. Like I was gonna try to look for the mirror a little bit, but no.
Okay. So what would
I'll just follow Atris.
Okay, so Bartleby's kind of following Atris's lead.
Mhm.
Okay. Then Atris and Bartleby, give me a wits plus investigation roll, please. And Leia, I'm gonna have you do the this is going to be a also a wits plus investigation, because you're looking at it from a military standpoint.
Atris got 5 successes on that roll.
Okay, 5 successes, 2 successes. Okay, good to know.
I'm gonna use a willpower.
Okay.
Three successes.
Okay. Atris and Bartleby, as you're going counterclockwise to this, again, one thing you notice is that the structures that are the permanent residences here that are on the outside do seem to be a lot simpler, a lot less ornate, and not as big. Still big enough that a full-grown lupine could enter, but you notice they're not quite as tall as some of the other ones. It wouldn't be they might have to like hunt.
They can fit.
Yeah. As you continue going around, you notice a path that is a well-worn path that seems to be of trees, and you follow the tree line because the trees are on either side, and that leads to what looks like a barred tunnel up against the plateau. You get the idea that that's the front entrance, that basically they've made a path with a tree line that leads to the village proper. As you continue to go in, you're getting that as you're starting to circle around with the successes that you got. Of the structures here, there's about 200 dwellings in here.
Let's search them all. Let's search them all.
And yes, and it is hard to tell how many of them belong to those that are warrior capable and how many of them are just civilians, but you do get the idea also that each structure could hold multiple individuals, as
like 2 people, 3 people, 3.5,
3 3/4. And I will say that in your searching, you do see that central place that Noah saw, not of where the leaders are, but that the giant 3 fire pits with about a dozen people still kind of hanging around it.
Where that meeting was yesterday, if that's what you're referencing.
So you get the idea that that's what you see there so far from what you got from that initial pass.
Okay.
Wea, you fly over in owl form, and you get the idea that of the structures there, it's a rough count. You're not counting one by one. But you get the idea that an additional 300 structures are there.
Okay.
You get the idea that they would all be warriors if they were here specifically for the war party. And you said you got how many successes?
I think it was 3.
Okay. You don't know whose symbols are whose. However, you do notice some flags and things that are outside a lot of these structures to get the idea that there's different ones. You see one group where it is a black flag with red bear paw prints on it with two hands like this. That seems like one of the larger groups. You see another group that is a normal hide-colored flag with a black axe on it. That seems to be another extremely large group. If you stick around there, you notice that most of the individuals there all seem to be women.
Where are the men, Sean? Give me the men.
Well, I mean, there was plenty of them in the two bear paw ones.
You missed the Chip and Dale's tent.
Yes. That's the one where the drumming's just
Everyone's vibing in there, dude.
right. The two smallest groups actually seem to be one where it is a sword, what looks like a European style sword at rest with a wolf's head behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one that seems to be an eye with a oval structure around it. I will say, of the one that is the sword with the wolf's head, you see some people coming out that look like European settlers. They definitely seem a little bit uncomfortable in these settings. And you see another group that seems to have brought their own structures with them, where instead of the teepees, there seems to be the roll a, this is going to be int plus.
Ain't gonna work out.
This is just going to be straight int.
0. Nothing.
No idea. They look like tents of a type, but you've never seen their structure before.
Is this related to the group with the eye and the oval structure as a flag?
No.
Oh, a different group entirely.
This is a different group.
Okay. So different group. Okay.
Where there seems to be several stars that make a constellation. And a spear that's going through a snake.
And a spear, what?
That is going through a snake.
Okay. Got it.
But the two smallest groups are the eye with the oval.
And the one with the
sword
head.
and the wolf head.
Yes, correct.
The one with the spear and the snake seems to be like a middle-sized group compared to all of them, and the two largest ones are the ones with the black axe and the one with the red bear paws on it.
Do they? Do I see their forms differentiate per group? Like,
not necessarily per
that
group, as far as like if you look around, you notice they are often dressed slightly different per group. But as far as their form goes, some of them are, I will say, the group with the different white tents and the spear and the snake, you notice not wolves that seem to be hanging out around there, but some form of canine that you have not seen before, a little bit more slender, with pointed ears and black fur that seem to be slightly different looking.
Describe it one more time. You said slender.
It's a jackal.
Slender, small. Jackal? Is it a jackal?
I don't know what a jackal is.
But they are slender, black-furred, pointy-eared, bigger than a fox, smaller than a wolf. about the size of a coyote, I would say. You know what those are.
True. Okay. And
And
that's
I
the
will
one
say,
with-
of the ones with the oval, you
Mhm.
see a couple of wolves and you see a couple of coyotes, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I will say, of the ones with the sword and the wolf head, they look like wolves. You can tell that they're wolves, just not the kind of wolves you have necessarily seen, like slightly different.
Uh-huh.
How close are you getting to these?
I want to get pretty close, but I definitely want to avoid the ones that are in full like war form, if there are any walking around in this area.
Every so often you do see one. As a matter of fact, you see, while these different groups do kind of have their own little place carved out, there does seem to be some mingling. And you do see two in full Lupine war battle form seeming to have a wrestling match going on, where there's a crowd around them and there are cheers and shouts and howls happening, and they seem to be having some kind of competition with each other.
Does it seem like one group doesn't like another group specifically more, like they're either avoiding them or just
I will
have bad
say,
body
with
language
the
towards-
rolls that you got so far, you would have to roll, like, with the information you got so far, that's
That's
already
it? Okay.
quite a bit of information. So
Cool.
that's something you would have to spend more time observing to
Okay.
watch patterns and interactions and things like that. This is kind of you flying close enough but glancing over and keeping in motion rather than staying and
Okay.
pinpoint.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Walter.
Well, hello.
Walter.
You're staying near the top of you're staying by the carriage with Asmodeus.
Twiddling my thumbs.
Not running into bears.
Right.
Not firing the Gatling gun into the night sky.
Yeah, don't do that.
And Asmodeus is just kind of sitting there and he's looking and he's like, so what do you think the angle here is?
If I had to guess, maybe about 75 degrees, something like that. Walter looks down toward the outer ledge of the plateau.
Oh, I was thinking
I
it. And he
Swear to
said it.
God.
That was pretty good. That was
I
pretty
love
He
it.
good.
catches his head and goes, I don't think you're wrong. I don't know what I was expecting out of your mouth, but I don't think it was that.
Yeah, I look like I don't know a lot of math, and I don't, but I fired a lot of shots long range.
Well, that might be what this is gonna call for. See, how don't mean to pry, but your past experience, is it more out and out fighting, or what do you know about taking out individual targets kind of unknowingly?
You mean unbeknownst to them? I trained folks who never picked up a gun before to shoot long range. I know a lot about it. I don't know what you got going on with your eyes, but
They kind of flare up a little bit and they get a little bit more red in the dark, and he goes, see, I can look into someone and see what they did in their past and use it against them. I'm just saying, I have an idea if all this negotiating goes south like I think it will. I say we tear a page out of their book. Big Chief Dog wanted to blame this all on you by planting some evidence. We take out a little bit of them, plant it on each other, watch them tear each other apart. we pick off the stragglers afterwards.
There's already some kind of evidence. It's what they're out there trying to share and get at. But you know what? I don't know where the dude's eyes are. I don't know where his eyes are
You
either.
don't need them.
Probably
You
fine.
kill one of them, drop it in the tent of the other one. You kill another one, drop it in the tent of the other one. Pretty soon they're bearing fangs and claws and ripping into each other.
Asmodeus, you're a smart fella. But how are you thinking that you and me are going to get down there pulling one of them bodies quietly into some tent and they ain't going to see us?
Well, all depends on how good you are. And I didn't say it had to be a biggin.
That's why you're asking about long range shooting, ain't it?
Yep.
We don't have Atris around to silence their shots.
She'll be back. I'm not saying we have to do this right this second, but I'm just saying we plant the right body in the right tent. Suddenly, well, they're too busy trying to kill each other to worry about us, and we can slide in and cut the head off the snake.
Wouldn't mind getting another chance at more at this fucking betraying son, but
He slaps you on the chest. That's what I'm saying. Why we gotta let everyone else have the fun?
I'm saying that dude ain't gonna back down. We're just thinning the herd in, you know, more Liam's kind of way first. Make it easier on us to get clearer shots. You seriously think we ain't gonna have targets to shoot at?
I'm just saying we could have more and do this a little bit faster. I know about you, but I'm itching to get back home.
I have a feeling if we start instigating by making kills tonight, it's going to take you a lot longer to get back home.
All right. Well, I'm here to aim and shoot. You just tell me who at and when.
Walter looks up at whoa, wait, we're probably not down in the carriage. Maybe I don't know. Are we milling about? Are we kind of near the carriage?
You're near enough. I mean, the carriage isn't that far. You
Kinda
chose
outside.
not to roll it that far back, but you could be out on the entrance to the cavern if you want to be.
Say, Asmodeus, when's the first time you ever fought one of these?
Oh, my first Lupine. You always remember your first.
They've
Big.
been around as long as us.
That's what the stories say. They've been around just about the same amount of time. And well, my first one, I would say. Oh, that would be back in the Carpathian Mountains. There was one, they were crawling around mad that we were opening up some kind of sacred tomb or something like that. And they came out mad as hell, snarling, snapping at us. Luckily, we had some archers up in the front and had a little bit of silver to help out too. Lost a few good soldiers that day, but got some interesting hides to bring back to our leaders too. Give you a little secret.
Interesting hides.
Mm-hmm.
The soldiers didn't didn't peg you for a military man.
Oh, I help out now and then, after all. Fun thing is, you never know where the fun's gonna be, so you gotta join up with who you can when you can. But I'm more of a freelance kind of person, at least until our employer made me a deal I just couldn't pass up.
I've been fighting all the way till I died, and I guess since too. First thing I did when I got these, I went down in Mexico with the Texian states armies, found the fucking president that killed us all at Alamo. We slaughtered all his men.
Good on ya.
You know how it felt?
Ooh, do tell.
Like not a lot at all, man. I'm not looking to massacre all these here, but ones that want to make big fucking power plays and lie to their people, them need to go. That's what I'm here to kill. We'll get our shot at him. Don't worry. That dude's not going anywhere till we make him. That's what we're here to do.
I'm going to tell you something right now that our employer said to me, which was how I knew he was the guy I need to follow. There is one universal truth in this existence, whether it be while you're still all fleshy and blood sack or to become one of us. The whole of existence is about paying. How much you can dish out and how much you can take. And if you can dish out and take more than the other guy, you get to make the rules. So this whole fight is going to be about, can we dish it out? Because I don't know how much we can take. Makes the world real simple at that point.
Well, there's a reason they left us behind up here. They're saving the best for last.
Exactly. We too damn good looking to be down there. We'd be a distraction.
Go straight.
All right. Liam. Just give me a quick, I know you said you didn't need to act it out, so just give me a quick, this is going to be a wits plus survival to try and gather up these weeds where you're a bit, or you can just assist Henry.
I'm going to assist Henry.
Okay, so how are you going to assist him?
Through motivational speaking?
More of, are you going to physically help, or are you going to just try and point out like, oh, don't touch there? Yeah.
Kind of like I was already. Like, I'm going to tie a rope to him so that just in case he gets snagged by some of it, I can pull him in.
Got it. Okay. You lowered his difficulty, and thank God you did. Jesus Christ. That's more twos than I've ever seen. I will say it takes him a little bit, and at one point, one of the leaves brushes against him, and he's just against bare skin. He's just, but he's able to collect a good amount of it. He actually found down there in, I guess, one of the offerings that had been emptied, a decent sized woven basket about yay big, and collected a good amount of it and put it in there.
Yay!
You can add that to the inventory. Jumping back to Noah real quick because we need to end this pretty quick. Noah.
Yay, lakeweed.
Yes, lakeweed.
Yes,
You've spent some time observing this because all this stuff I've given you guys, it takes time. It's not just instantaneous. Are you going to just continue to sit there, or are you going to do anything else to help further identifying who's who?
Yeah, if I could, I'm gonna walk up to the flap of each tent and look between them. I'm not gonna move the flaps. I'm gonna just peek.
I want first a perception, a Dex plus stealth roll, please. Standard difficulty, because your benefits are going to balance out between their sense of smell and observation.
So I got 4.
Okay. You feel pretty well stealth. Now give me a perception plus investigation roll, please.
Ooh. Okay. I got 6 on that one.
Okay. You go around to each one. In the center one, you don't even, or do you avoid the center one because you just assume that that's Ichitai, so it's pointless?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go to the big one.
Okay.
Nah.
So then one of the ones on the far right is actually empty. There's no one currently in there. There are furs and baskets and things like that, and a fire pit that is unlit in the center. You get the idea that that since there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other chieftains besides Ichitai, that one of them is empty. You go on to the other one, where you do see a European looking gentleman, dark skin. He is a black man with salt and pepper hair cut short on the top, leads down to mutton chops that come into the mustache, and a monocle. And he is sitting there with a couple other people. And there's actually a tea set there that they have kind of over this iron grate. Very nice, very pristine. And it looks like while there are furs and things let out, there is a makeshift like bed that's locked in with a wood frame that he has there with at least 3 other individuals that are in there with him. The next one up on the right-hand side, you see a group of 6 people in there, with one sitting in the middle, cross-legged, sitting there at the fire, scars up and down his body, maybe not quite as much as Wea has, hair cut into a mohawk, looks to be in his, hard to say because it looks like this guy's led a hard life, but late 30s, early 40s, and they are decked out in weapons and armory to the teeth. One of which is literally to the teeth, as it is in wolf form, saying they're gnawing on a bone of something. Then there's the main center one. Then going on to the left-hand side, the one closest to the center one is the one that the all-female group came in and out of. And you peer in there, and you definitely still see that same woman, and under closer observation, you notice that she does seem to have one arm, and that's why one of her cohorts is holding up the whetstone as she is sliding a iron black axe down it. You then go to the one in the middle, and you see a gentleman with a suit, red fez, smoking a pipe, sitting in a chair with 4 other people also sitting down. There seems to be, you've seen one of these devices before in Mr. Black's setup. It's actually a hookah, but you saw it when you met Mr. Black at the Golden Goose Tavern, that some of them are smoking from. As they seem to be holding out maps and talking amongst themselves in a language that you don't understand. Doesn't seem to be the Lupine language, but it's some other language that you don't quite get, though you've heard Atris speak it once or twice. And then in the the bottom one on the far left, you see an older guy with these kind of, the type of glasses that kind of make his eyes look bottled out kind of thing, where his eyes look bigger than they actually are. Sitting there, he has a gnarled wood staff with beads and herbs and feathers, eagle feathers hanging from it. And sitting there seem to be a couple other soldiers, some men, some women, but there's only 2 of them actually in there right now. And that was the other one that you saw someone come out of. And this seems to be the one that matches the description of Looking Glass. And he actually says something to the 2 of them, and you see the 2 of them, you're sitting there looking at the flapping, you see the 2 of them get up and start to walk out. What do you do?
I will make way for them,
Okay.
and I'm gonna try and sneak in as the flaps are swinging.
All right. I'm gonna need you then make a courage roll for me because you're getting closer to the campfire that's burning inside here. So go ahead and make a straight courage roll, standard diff.
I got 2 on that.
Okay. You are able to brave yourself in. You come in just as the flaps are actually give me a, that was the courage, give me a dex athletics to get in as the flaps are closing.
Only 2 on that one.
You just barely sneak in as the flaps close, and he sits there and reaches over, grabs a bucket and starts pouring water on the fire. This big billow of smoke comes out. Well, I can't see you, but I know you're there. Hopefully that makes things a little bit more comfortable for you. You have to be pretty brave or pretty stupid to be here, so why don't you tell me which one it is? And that's where we're going to end things for tonight.
Yeah, it's a little column A, a little column B.
Why is it only gotta be one?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So welcome to the Lupine Village. Starting next session, I will actually, because now you've done some reconnaissance, I'll actually be able to give you the map of the Lupine Village, so that way you'll have that as a reference point.
Basically, just imagining like a reverse dip down version of Ba Sing Se.
There you go.
Or is
My
no, it's Omashu.
cabbages!
It's Omashu I'm thinking about.
Yes. But you're now here. You finally made it. You are in the thick of it. You are in the Lupine Village. So next time we play, we'll get to see what happens to Noah with Looking Glass, how everyone else does, and how the plan unfolds from here. So everyone at home, thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying what you're watching. If you do, please like and subscribe. Feel free to ask questions or make comments below. And until next time we meet, please keep your fangs and your wits sharp, and we'll see you next time on Tumbleweeds and Tombstones.